On the day the car accident caused a miscarriage, James was accompanying his subordinate Emily to sign a contract. I was in the emergency room, enduring the pain, and finally signed the consent form. As soon as I turned around, I saw the dazzling fireworks outside the window. Congratulations, Emily, on successfully closing the deal. The hospital was bustling with people, but it seemed like no one noticed these events except me. When I woke up at midnight, I saw Emily's new post, which read, "You raised me, so it's only natural that I have your shadow." The photo showed the dazzling fireworks and James's back. I didn't ask James about it instead. I commented, "Good luck." To my surprise, James called me to explain that it was just a celebration and not to overthink it. I replied briefly and hung up, not thinking about it anymore. Since a miscarriage doesn't require hospitalization, I went home the next afternoon. James didn't expect to be working from home. Yesterday's project was important, affecting Emily's career development. How was your prenatal checkup? Where did you go last night? Why weren't you home? He kept asking, making me feel annoyed. I put on my shoes, leaned against the door, and looked at him tiredly. James, you don't need to explain. I understand. He looked at me with a complicated expression. Since you're pregnant, try to stay home more. As for you quitting your job, have you thought about it? I was about to speak when his phone rang loudly. Hold on, I'll take this call. I didn't respond, put my bag down, and went into the room, burrowing under the blankets. This winter is really cold, in a daze. James seemed to have finished his call. He knocked on the door and told me he was going to the office for a while and would be back later. I'll turn on the air conditioner for you. Then there was a loud slam as the door closed. The little incident didn't affect my growing drowsiness. The pain in my stomach and back made me realize I should rest. I slowly stretched my body, and in my dream, I returned to my wonderful college days. At that time, James and I were considered the model couple by everyone. Later, everything changed. Maybe it was because we had been together too long and the passion had faded. Suddenly, I felt extremely cold, as if I were on an Arctic glacier, with a severe headache forcing me to open my eyes. Even with the air conditioner on, it felt colder than outside in the snow. I struggled to get out of the room and glanced at the air conditioner's display, which showed cooling. In that moment, my heart felt pierced by something icy, with not a trace of warmth. After switching the air conditioner to heating, I put on 2 layers of clothes, panting heavily as I curled up on the sofa and reached for the cold medicine. James just sent me a message. Emily is coming over tonight for hot pot. Buy some extra lamb, she loves it. I looked at the chat background with James. It was a photo of our first date. We must have been so in love back then. I thought to myself, he sent another message. We'll be home in an hour. I sighed and said, it's not convenient. Why not? Never mind, Emily and I will go to the supermarket. You stay home and get the pot ready. We'll be back soon. Just reading the text, I could imagine James's impatient expression. I bit my lip, my body stiff and weak as I curled up on the sofa. I didn't move until they knocked on the door and came back. What's wrong with you? We've been waiting for you at the door for so long. Didn't you open the door? James was wearing a silver gray suit, his least favorite color. He was carrying a bunch of bags, which was also his least favorite thing to do. When we got married, he said that a gentleman should stay away from the kitchen, so it's best not to get too involved in kitchen matters. At the time, I was very happy, thinking that I just wanted to be a good wife and a good mother. Emily chimed in, James, is Sarah feeling unwell? A lot of people have colds lately. Is Sarah feeling a bit under the weather? After saying that, she snatched the bags from James' hands and went into the kitchen herself. James, you and Sarah are both important people. You shouldn't be doing these things. I've been cooking since I was a child. Let me handle it. James glanced at me with a displeased expression. There are guests at home. Can't you at least greet them properly? James walked up to me and snatched my phone. Sarah, you're pregnant? You're not sick. Do you really need someone to help you chop vegetables and wash fruits? He grabbed my chin and asked me. I pushed his hand away coldly. I've already told you I'm not feeling well. It's your fault for insisting on bringing her here. James suddenly laughed, thinking I was being unreasonable. That's great. At that moment, a scream came from the kitchen. James hurriedly walked into the kitchen. If I remember correctly, this was the first time he had ever been in the kitchen. Are you okay? How could you be so careless? Let's go to the hospital and check, James asked anxiously, and his words sounded particularly harsh to my ears. I hadn't seen him look so anxious in a long time. And I had even thought he wouldn't act like this anymore. I gave a self-deprecating smile, seeing the delivery rider on my phone who couldn't find the way. Finding it quite amusing. We're going to the hospital, you don't need to wait for me to eat. All right, I understand. I looked at him listlessly. Emily was in a hurry to go to the hospital because she had injured her finger. And I had been in a car accident, yet he thought it wasn't a big deal. It's just a minor accident, we'll wait for the traffic police to arrive. I have things to take care of. I'll hang up now. Those were the last words he left me, and they were the reason I decided to leave. Seeing the delivery rider already downstairs, I walked over slowly, waiting for him to open the door. I opened the door and saw James standing there. He said, "Hey, Emily was worried you might catch a cold, so she asked me to check on you and see if you need any medicine. I didn't expect you were okay after all, Sarah. You really disappointed me." After saying that, he turned and left without even looking back. I stood at the door for a while before realizing I had been spacing out when the delivery rider handed me the medicine. "You didn't answer your phone, so I thought no one was home," the delivery rider muttered as he walked away. I closed the door, took the medicine numbly, and called my boss, Aunt Linda. "I agree to the assignment. When can the appointment letter be issued?" A surprised voice came from the other end of the phone. "Really, you really agreed to the business trip? That's fantastic, Sarah. You didn't let me down. When you come back, your salary will at least double." Okay, I hung up the phone and started packing my things. Perhaps it was the effect of the medication, but after the pain subsided, I felt much stronger. I packed all my belongings in one go. I put the things they had bought into the refrigerator. Maybe this place would become their home someday. The snow outside had stopped falling slowly. While it wasn't too late yet, I grabbed my suitcase and headed out. Just then, I ran into James coming back. He saw my suitcase, grabbed me angrily, and dragged me back inside. Then he pushed me onto the sofa. "Sarah, what's wrong? Are you dragging your suitcase to go somewhere? Are you trying to divorce me?" He found my behavior hard to understand. I also found his thoughts strange. "Yes, if that's what you think, then let's get a divorce." I said this casually, and his expression immediately turned panicked. "You're an orphan. Where would you go without me?" He started saying some dismissive things. "That's not what I meant. I meant that you're the most important person in my heart." James explained. I straightened my clothes and silently looked at him without speaking. "Besides, we already have a child. Do you want the child to be born without a father?" He spoke hurriedly. I looked at him coldly and said slowly, "The child is gone. Here's the abortion certificate. If you don't believe me, you can go to the hospital to confirm it." He suddenly pushed me onto the sofa, his eyes filled with anger. "What do you mean there's no child?" The wound on my back hurt so much I couldn't speak. "It means exactly what I said." I stubbornly refused to explain to him. Why should I be the only one to suffer? I just didn't want to tell him everything. Didn't want him to know the truth. He let go of my hand and looked down at the paper. I saw tears in his eyes. "Sarah, I always thought the cruelest people in the world were men. But I forgot the saying, the most venomous heart belongs to a woman. Can you tell me why?" He looked at me, the tear tattoo at the corner of his eye making him look pitiful. But I glared at him fiercely, "Because you don't deserve to be his father. It's that simple. When he left my body, you were probably celebrating with Emily. Weren't you? Why didn't you call me? Why didn't you?" As he asked, he suddenly stopped. Maybe he thought of the phone he had repeatedly hung up on, or maybe he thought of the minor car accident he didn't think was a big deal. Or maybe it was something else, but I didn't care anymore. "Was it yesterday's car accident? Where are you hurt? How's it being treated?" He looked at me anxiously. I admit that if I had heard those words when I came back from the hospital, I might have forgiven James because he still cared about me. But now, I just felt uncomfortable. "James, let go of me?" I looked at the hands gripping my arms and just wanted to get away. "I won't let go, Sarah. I know I was wrong. I promise I'll never do this again." "Really?" As he kept apologizing, I said, "James, you're pressing on my wound." When I sat up, I noticed my entire back sweater was covered in blood. I didn't feel much pain. Since Emily went to the hospital for a small wound, I haven't felt any pain. He kept staring at my wound, asking over and over, "Should we go to the hospital? Let's go to the hospital and handle this properly. I know I'm the one who wronged you. Don't blame Emily. It's my fault for not handling it properly." I pushed him away. "James, let's just break up. You have no idea how painful it was lying on the emergency room bed, hearing the vibrant fireworks outside. You also don't know how much I wanted to keep this child." but had to give it up because it was too late. James, you know nothing about these things, and I don't plan to say any more. He suddenly knelt on the ground, tears welling up in his eyes. Sarah, I really know I was wrong. You've just lost the baby, you need to rest. Let's go to the bedroom to rest, okay? He looked at me cautiously. I walked to the central control panel. James, come here for a moment. I beckoned him over. He looked at me confusedly. What's wrong, Sarah? I pointed to the history log on the screen, which showed the temperature had been set to 18 degrees. I didn't do it. It must be broken, right? Sarah, believe me. I wouldn't do that on purpose. James shook his head vigorously. Like a metronome. I couldn't help but laugh, momentarily speechless. Finally, I placed my hand on his shoulder and looked him in the eyes. If you did this on purpose, I'd find a way to get back at you. I'd hate you, but you don't seem to care, and that leaves me with nowhere to vent my anger. I looked at him intently. James, it's over between us, completely over. He tried to argue or plead, but eventually gave up. It's snowing tonight. Let's leave tomorrow. I'll make you some soup. Okay, he looked at me with an expectant expression, and I squinted out the window at the falling snow, unable to help but say, sure. Maybe I really do love this warmth. I sat in the dining room, watching James busy at work, the air filled with the aroma of lamb. It reminded me of that winter during my sophomore year. Before winter break, my roommates suggested going out for hot pot. I'd never tried it before, so I went along with them. They ordered a lot of meat and vegetables, and I had no idea what most of them were. All I knew was that everything tasted delicious. There was just one type of meat that made me feel a bit queasy, but since everyone else was having such a good time, I didn't say anything. When I returned to the dorm that night, I collapsed at the door. My roommate was worried and rushed me to the hospital. Later, I found out I was allergic to lamb. The next day, James came to the hospital to visit me, crying like a child. He swore to me that he would never let me eat lamb again in his life. Not only that, but he didn't even want me to smell the scent of lamb. For this promise, James never ate lamb again. I told him several times that he could eat whatever he wanted. Just come back and brush his teeth and take a shower. I wasn't that delicate. James suddenly threw himself into my arms and said, I don't want this, Sarah. You don't understand how much I fear losing you. I can't take that risk. I couldn't stop laughing. Since Emily appeared, James' behavior began to change. He started coming home late and leaving early, and even after eating hot pot with Emily, he still had the smell of lamb on him. Honey, the lamb soup is ready. Come and have some to warm up. James' words snapped me back to reality. Before me was a bowl of steaming lamb soup, which looked quite delicious. However, I think he might have really forgotten about it. James, do you really want me to drink this soup? My eyes flickered. Perhaps because the person across from me was someone I once deeply loved. There was still a glimmer of hope in my heart. Yes, Emily loved the lamb soup I made. I'm sure you'll like it too. Plus, everyone says lamb is good for warming you up. You just lost your baby. Having some lamb soup to warm your body wouldn't be a bad idea. He spoke very seriously. But it sounded harsh to me. I asked again. James, are you really sure you want me to drink this bowl of lamb soup? What's wrong? Are you going to keep asking while I'm drinking? He scooped a spoonful of soup and brought it to my lips. I found it pretty funny inside, not sure what I was expecting. I snatched the spoon and poured it all over James' face. If you like it, eat more. I threw the spoon on the ground and walked away without looking back to grab my suitcase. Sarah, I'm a man and I cooked for you. What more do you want? I looked at him coldly and said, James, have you ever cooked for me before? James' expression changed slightly, looking a bit awkward, before forcing a smile and saying, I just wanted to take care of you, that's why I cooked. Then who was the first time you went into the kitchen for? I stared at him, listening to his lies. The first time he went into the kitchen was for Emily, to make her a bowl of ginger soup. He thought I didn't know. He thought he'd covered his tracks perfectly. But how could I not know what was in the fridge, or which kitchen utensils had been used? And the ginger juice spilled on the floor. And the milk carton that was forgotten and left out. Of course, he stammered. It was for Emily. She had just started working at your company a month ago. And you made her ginger soup with milk because she was having menstrual cramps. I looked at him. In truth, I enjoyed arguing with people, especially when I was completely in the right. He bit his lip as if he wanted to say something else to salvage the situation. I can make lamb soup too? Why are you suddenly so angry? If you don't want to drink it, just say so. He started to blame me. I didn't do anything wrong by making lamb soup. It's my fault for being allergic to lamb. Do you think that's acceptable? James, I couldn't help but laugh. He looked flustered, as if he had remembered something. I'm sorry, Sarah, I forgot. I didn't mean to, don't worry. I'll put a note on the fridge so I can see it when I cook. Okay, Sarah, please forgive me this once. After all, I haven't eaten lamb for years because of you. Can't you understand this time? He used his promise as a bargaining chip and said to me, It's your choice not to eat it, not mine. Do you understand? I looked at James in disappointment and pushed him away, heading toward the door. After opening the door, I stopped in my tracks, turned around, and said to him, James. He turned around excitedly. Sarah, your words reassured me. I knew you wouldn't leave me over such a small matter. Meet me at the Civil Affairs Bureau tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. I already made the appointment while I was making the lamb soup. Our voices rang out simultaneously. And for a moment, neither of us knew who should speak first. What did you just say? He forced a smile and looked at me. I said, let's meet at the Civil Affairs Bureau tomorrow morning. I dragged my suitcase for a long time before reaching the entrance of the residential area. I turned around and didn't see James anywhere. Great, he didn't chase after me. I hailed a taxi, took a deep breath, and was about to put my suitcase in the trunk when the driver ran over. Oh, young lady, how can I let you carry that? Get in the car, it's freezing out here. The driver asked me where I was going. I said to a hotel, but he shook his head and said, You're covered in blood. You need to go to the hospital. I froze for a moment, then slowly came to my senses as the warm air from the car blew over me. That's right, the wound on my back had reopened. Moved by the stranger's kindness, I couldn't help but cry. The driver didn't ask any more questions. He took me to the hospital and asked if I needed him to stay with me. I shook my head and said, Sir, I can manage on my own. He still took my luggage out and insisted on accompanying me to register before leaving. These young girls nowadays really have it tough. He turned around and said something to me. I forced a smile. The doctor who attended to me was the same one from yesterday. She asked me to take off my clothes and slowly began to clean the wound. Does it hurt? She asked me. I glanced at the bloodstains on my sweater. There was quite a bit of blood and it felt a little painful, though it was actually quite painful. It hurts, but I can endure it. The doctor smiled slightly and said, You young people always like to speak in vague terms. If it hurts, it hurts. If it doesn't hurt, it doesn't hurt. How could this wound on your body not hurt? By the way, if I recall correctly, you had an abortion yesterday, didn't you? I nodded, and she continued, Young women should take good care of themselves. Life is your own. I nodded again and said, Thank you. The doctor finished bandaging me and told me to leave, reminding me not to take a shower or get wet. I obediently nodded and was about to drag my suitcase out. Then he said, Never mind, never mind. It's a hassle with the suitcase. I'm on duty today, so don't go. Stay in my duty room for the night. I was a bit dazed and let her pull me into the room. She turned on a small heater, and it felt warm and cozy. I hadn't felt such comfortable warmth in a long time. My daughter is about your age. She's studying abroad. I hope she's being treated well there. The doctor looked out the window at the snow and sighed. I continued, You're so kind she will be. The doctor smiled and said, Rest for a while, if you're hungry. I can go to the cafeteria and get you something. I was about to say no, but my stomach growled again. The doctor returned quickly with a bowl of red date and millet porridge, saying, I made this for you. It's good for nourishment. Here, let me add some brown sugar for you. Her movements were smooth, but I was crying so hard. I drank water while crying, unable to stop. She realized comforting me wasn't working, and there were other patients waiting outside, so she directly handed me a tablet and started playing cartoons. Be a good girl, finish your meal, watch the cartoons, then go to sleep. Auntie has work to do. She repeated her concerns several times before leaving. When the door closed, I placed the lunchbox on the table and hugged my legs, crying. I hadn't felt someone care about me like that in a long time. The sound of the cartoons drowned out my crying. And I cried freely until I was exhausted, finally collapsing onto the bed and falling asleep. That night, I slept well, feeling a sense of peace I hadn't felt in a long time. When I woke up, the doctor took me to eat beef noodle soup and we chatted for a while. She told me that life is never afraid of starting over. At 10 o'clock, I took a taxi to the Civil Affairs Bureau. James walked over slowly, looking like he hadn't slept well all night, with dark circles under his eyes, though he had changed his clothes. Let's go inside. I stared at James, who refused to move. Sarah, we've been together for so many years. Can't you forgive me this time? I shook my head. James, divorce isn't because of this one thing, but because of many such things. Do you understand? We were supposed to be looking forward to the baby's arrival? But you refused to accompany me to the prenatal checkup just to help Emily sign a contract. This has become a fantasy, James. Accept reality. Let's divorce. I pulled his hands off my clothes. Sarah, we can still have children. If we really divorce, we'll have nothing left. Are you really willing to see that happen? There's nothing left between us, I replied coldly, no longer feeling hurt or sad by anything he said. Sarah, don't be so heartless, please. This makes me feel like a stranger. Sarah, please don't do this. James pleaded with me, just like how I used to hope he'd come home earlier every time he came home late at night. James, I've tried begging you too. Do you think that works, to be honest? That night in the emergency room, I looked out the window at those 8 characters and thought, how much must the fireworks cost for the whole city to see them? They were so big and beautiful, I couldn't even guess. Just like you said, I'm an orphan. I've never seen that much money before. Can you tell me how much those fireworks cost? I looked at him seriously, my voice as soft as if we were talking about something trivial. He opened his mouth to say something, but I could tell he was a bit embarrassed. But what was there to be embarrassed about? How much was it? I cut straight to the point, and he finally blurted out, 2 million. I suddenly felt relieved. 2 million? Not 20,000, not 2,000, but 2 million. I earn 50,000 a year and consider myself pretty well off, but coming up with 2 million that easily would still be tough. I had no idea my husband was that wealthy. I looked at him with a mocking expression. Don't worry, I'm not going to argue over this money. 2 million will be the end of our relationship. Or you could say it's a contribution to your new life with Emily. I didn't want to ask any more questions and walked straight into the Civil Affairs Bureau. James followed behind me. I don't know which words had such a profound effect on him, but he didn't say a single word the entire time. The staff member told me that we had a 1-month cooling-off period for divorce and to come back in a month. I nodded. I remembered when this policy first came out, James had told me, Sarah, we'll never need a divorce cooling-off period. I'll always be passionate about you. Seeing the beautiful weather, I couldn't help but think back to the past. Do you need me to take you to the hotel? I didn't mean anything by it. I shook my head and looked ahead. Someone is waiting for you. James followed my gaze and saw Emily. Wow, James, you actually divorced your sister-in-law for me. Emily looked at me in surprise, her eyes gleaming with a hint of challenge. It's not like that, James tried to explain, but Emily interrupted him. Last time we played Truth or Dare with James. I thought he was just drunk when he said he wanted to marry me. I never thought he was serious. James, can I call you that? James pushed her away angrily and said, What nonsense are you talking about? What Truth or Dare? What about marrying you? Emily, stop making things up. James looked like a scared cat, suddenly getting very agitated. I didn't want to watch him put on a show here. I raised my hand to hail a taxi and prepared to leave. Sarah, listen to me. I didn't do this. He grabbed my hand and told Emily to say more to explain. Emily was a bit nervous, bit her lip, took her phone out of her bag and said, James, listen carefully. These are the exact words you said to me. The recording clearly captured James agreeing to marry Emily. He heard it clearly, and I heard it clearly too. Is there anything else you want to explain? I found it a bit amusing that with all this evidence, James was still trying to defend himself. No, that time I was drunk. I thought it was you. I really thought it was you, Sarah. He was desperate to explain to me to make me know he wasn't a bad person. James, did you also think it was me? So you had relationships with so many other women. At that moment, I found James extremely repulsive. I pushed his hand away. James, don't touch me again. It's disgusting. I took 2 steps back and patted my sleeve. James looked at me with an innocent expression, as if I were the one who had wronged him. Sarah, how could you say that to me? We've lived together for 3 years. How could you say such things? If you hadn't always been so domineering, if you hadn't lacked understanding. I never would have done those things outside. Hearing James' accusations, I was so angry I almost laughed. I'm insensitive? Yeah, you didn't mention it. But I almost forgot. The same necklace was first Emily's, then it was mine. Oh right, the one given to me was actually a gift. The dress Emily didn't like anymore. She gave it to me. The same bag she carried for a few days and thought wasn't pretty. She gave it to me too. James, do you think I don't know about these things? Just that I didn't say anything. James opened his mouth to defend himself, but found he had nothing to say. Finally, he said, I just wanted Emily to try it on and give me her opinion. You know I'm not very smart and don't understand these things girls like. I couldn't stop laughing. I took out my phone and first showed him every gift he had given me in college. Then showed him Emily's social media accounts. You really understand girls. After all, you've gotten it right before. Didn't you say you wanted Emily to use it as a reference? Because everything you bought was so perfect for her. Otherwise, why would she take photos of every single one? James looked at Emily in shock. Are you saying you told her not to post them randomly? Sorry, all these were recommended lists. I glanced at James standing there, then turned and left. Just as I hailed a taxi, I heard a slap, and when I got in, I realized James had hit Emily. Emily looked at him in disbelief. James, you betrayed me. What right do you have to blame me? Emily slapped me back, and I felt a moment of regret, thinking I should have hit her back a few times to get even. But no, I'm a decent person. I don't want to do something so immoral. The weather was nice today, so I went to the hospital to have the embryo removed. I took it to a cemetery and spent $1 million on a grave. No matter how I think about it, I feel guilty toward this child. I'll erect an unnamed monument for him so he can rest in peace without any attachments. The staff noticed I hadn't engraved any words on the monument and curiously asked, why not engrave any words? I thought for a moment and said, this is a child I've never seen before. Giving him a name would make me feel attached, and I don't want him to bear that burden. The staff member smiled and said, in this day and age, it's rare to meet someone as kind as you. I smiled too. As I left the cemetery, I received a call from my superior, telling me to process the visa. Once it's approved, we can depart. I agreed immediately, checked the visa procedures, and prepared the documents to schedule an appointment at the embassy. The next day, as I was leaving, I encountered James, who had parked his car below the hotel. I heard you're leaving. When is that? He looked at me with a hint of reluctance in his eyes. I was already fed up with his fake emotions, so I walked away. He insisted on following me in his car, blocking my path and causing traffic behind us. With no other option, I got into his car. He said, I know I was wrong for getting too close to other women. Sarah, let's talk this through. We're married. If we divorce, what will people think? And how can you guarantee you'll find someone better than me in the future? I took a deep breath and couldn't help but slap him. You're not much yourself, so why do you think all men are terrible? Besides, who said I have to marry you? James, are you a little off your rocker? I need to go to the embassy. Either take me there or pull over and let me out. Hit me a few more times. I think venting like this is actually pretty good. It means you still care about me and I can still affect your emotions. Sarah, now that you've vented, let's go to the Civil Affairs Bureau to annul the divorce. Okay, I promise I'll listen to you from now on. I suddenly laughed because I never thought James would be this kind of person. I thought he was just stupid and easily influenced, but I never expected him to be so worthless. Stop the car. There's nothing left to say between us. Divorce is the last shred of dignity we have left. Otherwise, let's go to court. Seeing my firm attitude, he finally agreed to take me to the embassy. Go ahead, I'll wait for you outside. I didn't respond. I didn't believe he'd wait there either. The visa process went smoothly. The staff said it would be ready in 2 weeks due to some national policies. I was happy. The sooner I could separate from James, the better. When I left the embassy, James was already gone. Instead, my phone started vibrating. A message came through. Sarah, what you're doing is disgusting. You clearly don't like James, yet you keep maintaining distance. Now that he's in trouble. Do you feel satisfied? I froze. The place was empty and nothing had happened. I had no idea what Emily was thinking. I deleted the message, called a car, and started packing my things. I returned to the home I shared with James and disposed of everything that hadn't been handled yet. The neighbors saw me throwing things away and thought something had happened. I told them it was nothing, just a divorce. They sighed and said they thought we were such a good match and would stay together forever. I didn't say anything. Finished cleaning up and returned to the hotel. To take care of my health, I maintained a regular schedule and ate healthily. 2 days before my visa arrived, I felt much better. I invited a few friends out to dinner, thinking this might be our last time together. They saw me looking so lively and started teasing me. I heard you and James got divorced. Is that true? I nodded. Yes, it's true. I'm leaving the country soon to pursue opportunities abroad, so I wanted to gather everyone together. Oh, that's such a shame. You didn't hear about James' car accident? I paused for a moment, continued eating, but felt calm inside. My friends kept talking, mostly about how James had been hit by a drunk driver and unfortunately got into an accident. It wasn't serious, he just fell and would be fine after resting for a couple of days. As we were leaving, one of my friends asked me, after all these years together, "Can you really let go?" I smiled and said, "Of course I can. Someone who's been through such a traumatic experience naturally finds it hard to let go." On the day I left, James limped his way to the airport. "Sarah," I smiled at him and said, "James, I've let go. You should let go too, since you've also been through a car accident. We're even now." He looked at me with a hint of sadness, perhaps still hoping I'd stay in the country because of his accident. That was so naive. Everyone has the right to pursue a better future, including him and me. From the moment our paths began to diverge, he and I were destined to walk different roads. When the Civil Affairs Bureau sent me the divorce certificate, my friends were talking about James. They said James drinks every day, and Emily was fired because she lost James' protection. The 2 million yuan worth of fireworks were also bought with public funds. It's likely James will go to prison soon. When I heard this news, I just smiled and continued with my own affairs. Everyone should take responsibility for their own life. James later called me and said, "I thought I was just being a little biased toward others, but I never expected it would ruin my future." I think he must have paid back the debt. Otherwise, he wouldn't have called me. I smiled and told him, "When you stop caring about things that once mattered to you, your life will take a new direction. James, don't contact me anymore. I'm doing well, and I hope you're doing well too."